I refused to have anal sex with my boyfriend, so he turned to watching explicit videos of his ex-girlfriend instead. My name is Emily, and I'm a 34-year-old woman currently in a relationship with a wonderful, albeit slightly younger man, named Alex, who is 21. We have been together for about 5 months now. I met Alex in a somewhat unexpected way. It was a typical Tuesday evening, and I had decided to unwind after a long day at work by visiting a local coffee shop. I usually spent my evenings there, catching up on some reading or working on my personal projects. The coffee shop had a cozy, inviting atmosphere, with soft jazz music playing in the background, and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. As I sat in my usual corner, engrossed in a book, I noticed Alex at the counter. He was hard to miss, with his tall athletic build and an infectious smile that seemed to light up the room. He looked a bit out of place among the usual patrons, most of whom were around my age or older. He approached the counter with an air of confidence and ordered his drink. As he waited, our eyes met, and he gave me a friendly nod. A few moments later, he was looking around for a place to sit, and since the shop was unusually crowded that evening, he approached my table with a polite, "Mind if I join you?" I agreed, and we struck up a conversation. What was meant to be a brief chat over coffee turned into a deep, engaging discussion that lasted for hours. We talked about everything from our favorite books and movies to our hopes and dreams. From that day on, Alex and I were inseparable. He had a youthful exuberance and a zest for life that was refreshing. Despite our age difference, we found common ground in our interests and values. Alex was studying computer science and was passionate about technology and innovation, while I worked in marketing, enjoying the creative and strategic aspects of my job. Our conversations were always stimulating, and we learned a lot from each other. Alex's positivity was contagious. He had a way of seeing the bright side of things, which was a refreshing change from my more pragmatic, sometimes cynical outlook. He was adventurous and spontaneous, often surprising me with impromptu dates or weekend getaways. One weekend, he whisked me away to a secluded cabin in the mountains, where we spent our time hiking, cooking together, and stargazing. It was magical and cemented the strong connection we felt. Our days were filled with joy and laughter. Alex had a way of making even the mundane tasks feel special, whether we were cooking dinner together, taking long walks in the park, or simply lounging on the couch, watching movies. Every moment felt cherished. Alex was attentive and affectionate, always finding little ways to show he cared. He would leave sweet notes for me to find in the morning, bring me my favorite flowers for no reason, and always made sure to remind me how beautiful and special I was to him. We also had a great social life. Alex introduced me to his friends who were welcoming and fun to be around. They were a lively group, and despite the age gap, I felt comfortable and accepted. Similarly, Alex fit in seamlessly with my friends and family. He had a charming personality that made everyone feel at ease. Our relationship was not just about the happy times though. We also supported each other through challenges. Alex was there for me when work got stressful, offering a listening ear and comforting words. I in turn helped him navigate the pressures of his studies and his part-time job. We were a team, facing the ups and downs of life together. Despite the seemingly perfect relationship, there were moments that hinted at underlying issues. Every now and then, Alex would casually bring up the idea of anal sex. He would phrase it in a way that seemed offhand, like it was just a passing thought. "Have you ever thought about trying something new in bed?" he would ask, or I read this article about couples experimenting with anal, and it got me curious. Each time he brought it up, I felt a familiar anxiety creeping in. I would respond firmly, but gently, reminding him that it was something I wasn't comfortable with. Alex would nod and drop the subject, but I could sense a hint of disappointment in his eyes. I started to worry that maybe I was not enough for him, that my reluctance to explore this particular aspect of our sexual relationship would drive a wedge between us. I tried to push these thoughts aside, focusing instead on the positive aspects of our relationship. However, the more Alex brought it up, the harder it became to ignore the nagging feeling that this issue was not going to disappear on its own. The turning point came one evening after another round of questions about trying anal sex. I could see that Alex was genuinely curious and not trying to pressure me, but it still triggered something deep inside me. I decided it was time to tell him the truth about my past, something I had kept buried for so long. We sat on the couch, and I took his hand in mine. I had a traumatic experience in my past that made the idea of anal sex extremely uncomfortable for me. I had been sexually assaulted by an ex-boyfriend when I was 17, an experience that left deep emotional scars. It was something I rarely talked about, and I certainly hadn't shared it with Alex yet. I took a deep breath and told Alex that I was uncomfortable with the idea of anal sex. I won't go into too much detail about my past, but I'll make it clear that it's been a difficult line for me. Alex seemed to understand and assured me that he respected my feelings and that it wasn't a big deal to him. He said that our relationship and my comfort were far more important than any sexual act. Alex pulled me into a tight embrace. Emily, I'm so sorry you went through that, he said softly. I had no idea. Thank you for trusting me enough to tell me. I promise I'll never bring it up again. For a while, after I had shared my traumatic past with Alex, he seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. He promised not to bring up the topic of anal sex again, and for a few months, he kept that promise. Our relationship continued to flourish. During this time, we went on romantic getaways, enjoyed quiet evenings at home, and deepened our emotional connection. It felt like we had moved past a major hurdle, and I started to believe that we could build a future together without this issue hanging over us. However, as time went on, I noticed subtle signs that the topic was creeping back into our relationship. It started with small comments and jokes, often made in a light-hearted tone. At first, I brushed them off, thinking that he was just being playful, but the more frequent these comments became, the more uneasy I felt. I began to sense that Alex's curiosity and desire for anal sex had not truly been put to rest. One evening as we were relaxing on the couch after dinner, Alex brought up the topic again, this time more directly. Emily, I've been thinking about something, he said, his tone serious. I know we've talked about this before, but I wanted to bring it up again. Can we discuss the idea of trying anal sex? My heart sank, and I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. I had hoped that this issue was behind us, but clearly, it wasn't. I took a deep breath and tried to remain calm. Alex, we've been through this. You know how I feel about it, and why it's such a difficult thing for me. He nodded, looking thoughtful. I know, and I respect that. But I want to explain why it's important to me. It's not about the physical act itself or sexual pleasure. For me, it's more of a submissive thing. I was confused. Submissive? What do you mean by that? He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. It's about the dynamic it creates. I like the idea of you giving yourself up to me, of trusting me completely. It's a form of intimacy that goes beyond physical pleasure. It's about the connection and the trust involved. I tried to understand his perspective, but it was difficult. So, you're saying it's not about the act itself, but what it represents to you? He nodded again. Exactly. I don't need it for sexual satisfaction. I love you and our sex life is great, but there's something about the submissive aspect that really appeals to me. It makes me feel closer to you in a different way. I appreciated his honesty, but it didn't make me feel any better about the situation. Alex, I understand that you have your reasons, but this is a boundary that I need you to respect. It's tied to a very traumatic experience for me, and it's not something I can just get over. He reached out and took my hand, his eyes filled with sincerity. Emily, I don't want you to think that this changes how I feel about you. I love you just the way you are, and this doesn't make me like you any less, but it's something I really want to explore with you because I believe it could bring us closer in a unique way. I sighed, feeling torn. On one hand, I wanted to honor his desires and be open to his needs. On the other hand, I couldn't shake the deep discomfort and fear that the idea of anal sex brought up for me. Alex, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, but it's hard. This is a deeply sensitive issue for me, and I need you to respect that. He squeezed my hand gently. I do respect it, Emily. I really do. But I also want us to be able to talk about our desires and needs openly. I promise I won't pressure you, and if it's something you can never do, I'll accept that. But I wanted you to know why it's important to me. His words hung in the air, and I felt the weight of the conversation pressing down on me. I appreciated his honesty and his attempt to communicate his feelings, but it didn't change the fact that this was a hard boundary for me. I needed time to process what he had said and to figure out how we could move forward from here. The tension continued to build over the next few weeks. I tried to push my worries aside and focus on the positive aspects of our relationship, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. Then, one evening, I discovered something that shattered my fragile sense of peace. As I settled onto the couch, Alex's phone buzzed on the coffee table. He had left it behind in his rush to catch his flight earlier that day. I glanced at the screen and saw a notification from an unknown number. Curiosity got the better of me, and I unlocked his phone to see what it was. What I found shocked and hurt me to my core. There were several videos, all sent from his ex-girlfriend, and they were explicit. In these videos, she was performing anal sex with various sex toys. My heart sank as I scrolled through the messages that accompanied the videos. They were from the early stages of Alex and I talking. Before we had officially started dating, he had been asking her to do these things over text, and she had complied, sending in these graphic videos. I felt a rush of emotions, betrayal, anger, confusion, and deep sadness. Why had Alex kept these videos? Why had he even asked for them in the first place? I couldn't comprehend what this meant for our relationship. The man I thought I knew and trusted had kept a significant part of his past hidden from me, and it felt like a punch to the gut. When Alex returned from his trip, I confronted him immediately. I showed him his phone and the videos. What is this, Alex? Why do you have these videos from your ex-girlfriend, and why were you asking her to do these things? Alex looked taken aback, his face paling as he realized what I had found. He took a deep breath and sat down, clearly trying to find the right words. Emily, I can explain. Those videos were sent to me after we had broken up. It was before we were together, and I never thought you'd find out about them. I felt a surge of anger. That's not the point, Alex. Why did you ask her to do these things? What does this mean for us? How am I supposed to trust you now? He looked down at his hands. Guilt etched across his face. I asked her because, I don't know, it made me feel powerful. It's messed up, I know. I wanted to degrade her, to feel like I had some control. But it has nothing to do with you, Emily. I don't want to degrade you. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. How am I supposed to believe that, Alex? You've been pressuring me to do anal sex for months, and now I find out you were doing this with your ex. It makes me feel like I'm not enough for you, like I'll never be able to make you happy because I can't give you what she did. He reached out to touch my hand, but I pulled away. Emily, please, you are enough for me. More than enough. I love you, and this doesn't change that. I kept those videos out of stupidity and selfishness, not because I want to degrade you or compare you to her. I shook my head, feeling a mix of frustration and despair. I don't know if I can get past this, Alex. It's not just about the videos, it's about everything. The pressure you've been putting on me, the way you've made me feel like I'm not good enough. I don't want to be unhappy in our sex life, but I can't do something that brings back so much trauma for me. He looked at me, his eyes pleading. Emily, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I promise I'll never bring up anal sex again. I'll delete the videos, block her number, do whatever it takes to make this right. Just please, don't let this ruin us. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions inside me. Alex, it's going to take a lot more than that to fix this. I need time to process everything and figure out if I can still trust you. Right now, I just need some space. He nodded, his expression one of profound regret. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. As I walked away, I felt a heavy weight in my chest. This discovery had shattered my sense of security in our relationship, and I didn't know if it could be repaired. I loved Alex, but the pain and betrayal I felt were overwhelming. I needed to figure out what this meant for us and whether we could move forward together. In the days following my discovery of the explicit videos, I was in a state of emotional turmoil. I felt like I was on an emotional roller coaster, with waves of anger, sadness, confusion, and betrayal crashing over me at unexpected moments. The pain was almost physical, and my mind was constantly racing, trying to make sense of everything. I couldn't believe that the man I loved and trusted had kept something so significant from me. Feeling overwhelmed and unable to process everything on my own, I decided to reach out to a few close friends. I needed their support and perspective to help me navigate this difficult time. I invited my best friend Lisa over for coffee, knowing she would provide a listening ear and honest advice. As we sat on my couch, I poured out the entire story, from discovering the videos to Alex's explanation. Lisa listened intently, her face reflecting a mix of shock and sympathy. When I finished, she took a deep breath and said, Emily, I can't believe he did that. I'm so sorry you're going through this, but you need to remember that you're strong, and you deserve someone who respects you completely. Her words were comforting, but they also highlighted the gravity of the situation. I felt a lump in my throat as I realized just how much my trust in Alex had been shattered. Lisa reminded me of the good times Alex and I had shared, the moments when he had been loving and supportive. She acknowledged that while Alex had made a serious mistake, he wasn't entirely defined by it. This was comforting, yet confusing. How could I reconcile these two versions of him? As I continued to process everything, I found it incredibly difficult to reconcile the loving, caring man I knew with the one who had kept explicit videos of his ex-girlfriend. The contrast was stark and jarring. On one hand, Alex had been a source of comfort and joy in my life. He'd been supportive during tough times, made me laugh when I needed it most, and had shown me love in ways I hadn't experienced before. On the other hand, the betrayal I felt from his actions was undeniable and deeply painful. I spent countless hours reflecting on our relationship, replaying memories in my mind, and analyzing every aspect of our time together. I thought about the early days when we had first met and the connection we had felt. I remembered the adventures we had shared, the intimate moments, and the dreams we had for our future. All of this made it even harder to come to terms with the current situation. One of the most troubling realizations was that while I still loved Alex, my respect for him had been severely damaged. Love and respect are both crucial components of a healthy relationship, and losing respect for someone you love creates a deep and unsettling conflict. I felt a profound sense of loss, as if the foundation of our relationship had been cracked, and I wasn't sure if it could be repaired. I found myself questioning everything. Could I ever fully trust Alex again? Would I always feel insecure and inadequate because of his past actions? How could we move forward when such a significant part of our relationship had been tainted by betrayal? These questions haunted me day and night, and I knew that I needed to find some clarity. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real life stories happening around you.